Oh, hello. We're gonna take this leather jacket and we're gonna turn it into this. So I want to give this jacket a little bit of a legend, I guess. And my friend Vayo, he brought up some sword. So anytime the sword was drawn, it had to taste blood, which I think is super cool. So that being said, this jacket rarely gets worn. This was meant for super special occasions, and because I put in so much effort to the painting, I don't really want to damage it. To limit my use of the jacket and give it like a bit of its own legend, like the sword, anytime this jacket is worn, a trick must be thrown. And we're gonna do it before I melt.
So I suppose if this jacket has an origin story, it's that I was on this Angelus leather paint kick and trying to customize everything imaginable. And I had these cheap synthetic leather jackets lying around and I was like, oh, you know what? I never wear them. So why not paint something cool on them, be worried about damage, and continue to never wear them? That logic checks out. At this point, I'm definitely having second thoughts about painting an entire jacket white. Because not only do I have to do a bunch of coats, but there's like so much surface area to cover, and having to do that multiple times and moving it around to get everything to dry, it was just not the funnest thing, but hey, we suffer for art. So after regretting my life decisions in painting this entire jacket white, it's time to actually make the transfer. And I'm using Sorel transfer paper again, because I don't really want to draw directly on the jacket. It's too difficult to get something accurate painting on something that's uneven. So this, I think, is the best option. This moment of truth peel back always gives me a bit of anxiety, but in this case, thankfully, the transfer did work. It's a bit smudgy, but that's fine. I quickly do a more permanent outline of the transfer just because the transfer lines aren't always the cleanest, and having something a bit more permanent gives me a bit more confidence to like move my hand around without worrying about smudging any of the graphite. I get a bit more gestury with some of these outlines on the hair, just so I can set the tone for myself. I don't want the hair to be realistic, I want it to be vibrant and kind of abstract and pop arty. So the nice thing about these paints that I'm using here is that they're really opaque, and I don't think I'm going to have to do too many layers of them. I can just cover and move on. The neon pink that I'm using for the hair is quite a bit thinner, which means I just gotta layer it on a little bit more. I want this piece to be very vibrant and loud, so I'm using a lot of bright, pastel-y, almost like Easter egg colors. Now is where I feel like the actual painting begins, and it's both the scariest part, but also the most fun. I like trying to tackle the face first, because I feel like it's the most challenging part. I feel like for something like this, the face is going to be really important because it is a person, so I want to make sure the face is right. And tackling it early allows me to do a bunch of problem solving early on. I feel like I take a bit of a different approach to these customized items. I see a lot of people who've used Angelus paints or people who've customized, whatever item it is, right? And I'll see people using really clean lines and everything's super defined. And I just can't work like that. I don't know how to do that. Or maybe, I wouldn't say I don't know how to do it, but it's definitely not my specialty. It's not when I'm having the most fun. I think I'm having the most fun when I'm approaching something with a bit more looseness, where I'm trying to attack an item like it is a canvas, like I'm doing an actual painting. Not that there's anything wrong with a super clean illustration customization thing, right? Like, I'm not saying that one is better. I'm just saying that I kind of skew towards this style because it works for me, and I feel like it's important to lean into your strengths. One of the things I like doing personally is introducing weird colors that aren't necessarily there in real life or in the reference photo. And so in this case, I'm adding some blues and cyans as the shadow. Because the medium is kind of unfamiliar, I'm trying to figure out how to actually like blend these colors and make interesting marks with them. And a bunch of this is kind of a learning process. With my other projects, they've been really small, and this is a much bigger canvas, so I'm trying to navigate what kind of brush strokes I'm using, how I'm applying colors, how I'm going to use colors to define volume, to create shadows, which colors are my bright colors and which are my dark colors. It's important to be able to control the chaos, create some chaos, and then reel it in a little bit to control it. I've made a lot of spammy marks where I'm just kind of not really thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just spamming with the brush, making random lines, that sort of thing, with the idea that something's gonna stick, something's gonna accidentally look cool. I don't really understand my decision process when I'm doing this. I kind of fall into this flow state and things just kind of happen. I get into a point where I'm not necessarily painting towards a finish. I'm more so painting for the sake of painting because it's fun. It's something to do. It's something to unwind with, listen to music and let the music kind of define what I'm doing or influence what I'm doing. I'm trying to decide, all right, what elements do I want to keep? What elements do I want to simplify so that like the elements that I like can stand out? So it's about achieving that balance. That said, I do want to keep the style of something that's really frenetic and energetic. I like these rhythmic lines and variation between like thick and thin brush strokes. And I think it's going to look fantastic under a black light. And so when I'm painting this, I'm really wanting it to be very uniquely me. I'm not wanting it to look like someone else painted it or, that it was too heavily influenced by anyone else. I want every sort of brushstroke to be a record of my experiences, my thought process, all my traumas and all that. I personally want to be able to look back at this and sort of relive who I was at that time. I guess if there was any intent with this jacket, one, I want it to be loud, I want it to grab people's attention, so I'm using louder colors and that sort of thing, but I also want it to be representative of my style. I don't want it to look like someone else painted it. I don't want it to look like a copy of someone necessarily. Or I guess I want someone to see the jacket and be like, oh, Nico painted that. And I think a good way of achieving this whole idea of style, personality in your work is to kind of just freeform it a little bit. Don't try to be precious and just see what happens. Take some risks in your art. Make some marks that you don't necessarily know if they're gonna work or not. Be bold. Do some fun stuff. The nice thing is I didn't have a reference or a pre-painting done. I just had a reference for the face and how the lighting was gonna work. But outside of that, once you like let go of the reference, it's nice to just be able to let your creative mind take over and just have fun with it. I feel like one of the most important things about art is to have fun.